Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Thinking a little bit about basketball March Madness. I still haven't talked about this game. I'm not going to do that in this video, I don't think. I'm talking about the NCAA tournament. But there's a new series on HBO that I started watching. Because I'm a basketball fan, I'm a fanatic of sports history. And I was talking about when I was showing this in a video I haven't shared, this What If Sports site. But there's a new series on HBO titled Winning Time, the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers Dynasty, the story of the Showtime Lakers Dynasty with John C. Reilly starring as, he is basically the lead, as Dr. Jerry Buss, who buys the Lakers. They're taking some liberties with it, with a lot of these kind of, it's a TV series, fully accurate of course of events, but it starts like in the late 70s when he's going to buy the Lakers. Of course, there's stuff that's earlier than that. Jerry West. They're making Jerry West out to be very hot-headed and opinionated, which there's at least one or two liberties in that process, but I can understand it for the drama and the story. But, when they draft Magic Johnson in the late 70s, that's, June of 79 or whatever that was, and, how that team kind of came together and became... And I was just looking up some history last night about it. The second episode was on HBO on Sunday, so I don't know, there's like 8 episodes. They're going to have some other names on the cast. One name, the girl who plays the organizer of the forum. Hold on, Dynasty. Let's see, Winning Time. Because Gabby Hoffman. Of course, the internet doesn't want to work right now. Gabby Hoffman, who I knew as a child actor more or less. She's in it, but they're gonna have Jason Segel as Paul Westhead. Who basically, not to spoil too much, but Jerry West, if you look up the history, was the coach of the Lakers, and then he left, and he became the GM later. But then Jason Segel's going to play Paul Westhead for a while, because he only coached the Lakers for like a season and a half. They won the first title with Magic with him, though, in 1980. And then they're going to have Adrian, what's his name again? Adrian, from The Jacket. Adrian Brody played Pat Riley, which will be interesting. So I was just reading up some history, though, about Magic and Bird, of course. They played the championship game in the '79 championship game, Indiana State versus Michigan State, and Michigan State won. And then they only played each other in the finals, though, in the NBA finals, with Bird with the Celtics and Magic with the Lakers 3 times. I grew up, knew they played each other a lot. Obviously, they played each other during the regular season a few times. They probably only played each other twice a year. And it was probably an event. I was a kid and didn't watch the NBA religiously, but I kind of remember that. Unfortunately, when I started to really follow the NBA, it was slightly past that point. It was sort of when Jordan came of age, and then you had the Pistons. The Pistons unseated the Celtics and the Lakers for a short window of time, and then the Bulls end up unseating them. But no, it's to have some of these people show up. Brett Cullen, I know, he's playing Bill Sharman, who was a former coach too. They have Kareem, they're obviously some of the players they're going to have to bring in here. The guy who plays Magic he's pretty good. I mean, it's not 100%, but he's doing a good enough job. This guy named Quincy Isaiah. It's produced by Adam McKay, who that's the kind of the sad backstory of this whole thing, is that Adam McKay, sort of career writing partner for a while, was Will Ferrell for like the past 20 some odd years. And Will Ferrell and him are both fanatical Lakers fans, because I think they're both from LA or the Southern California, and unfortunately Will Ferrell believed he should have been cast as Dr. Jerry Buss, not John C. Reilly, which John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell have been in movies together, of course, but he didn't, and they kind of had a falling out. So anyway, that they're gonna have some other people show up, but yeah, and Rick Fox is doing like a former Laker who's done acting, former Laker, and played for other teams as well. He does like a discussion after the episode on HBO with some of the act and the cast and everything like that. So But yeah, just doing that research is interesting. That Bird and Magic only played each other, and the Lakers and Celtics only played each other 3 times in the '80s. You had this rivalry with the '60s. You had the Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, all the Celtics teams. They won 11 of 13 years. Russell only lost once in the finals, and the Lakers never won except the one time with Jerry West late. I think they won. Wilt because Wilt Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, that rivalry. But anyway, in the '70s, the Celtics won a couple times after that period of time, and the Lakers did in '72. But after West retired, they didn't. But that whole stereotype of Lakers-Celtics rivalry, like Yankees, Dodgers, and just looking at the records, Magic was in the finals 9 times from 1980 to 1991. He won 5, but he lost 4. Bird was only in the finals 5 times. The Bird, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge, that whole group, and they were 3 and 2. So they were legendary, but it was only 84, 85, and 87. It seemed like it was longer. That's only that 4-year period, 3 out of 4 years they played each other. There have been other rivalries since that lasted longer even. Had more, I don't know how many times like some of those teams played each other. I don't know, like there weren't, the problem is in recent history it's been the Spurs and the Lakers mostly and then the Heat a bit. But they didn't play like the same team 5 or 6 times. And you had Cleveland and the Golden State Warriors. Maybe that's the closest thing to it actually. But the difference was the Cleveland Cavaliers only beat the Warriors the one time. With LeBron, but it's interesting that Magic, he won 5 titles and we also lost 4. He's a little more like LeBron in that sense, but LeBron historically has won 4 now, but he's lost 6. So he's been to the finals 10 times, which is if he does it a couple more times, he may actually break that record in terms of appearances. Of course, you have someone like Robert Horry, who's actually was in 7 finals and won them all, but he wasn't a key player, he was a role player. You can put Jordan as 6-0 as like the sort of the some of those Celtics guys, like Tommy Heinsohn and Casey Jones, I think it was. Sam Jones, one of those guys. I just kind of look at the sort of primary stars as the ones to look at. But yeah, it's interesting. You look at the NBA history, and it's going to be interesting to see some of the players they'll bring in. They'll show the finals. They'll have to bring in Moses Malone and Dr. J, of course. Dr. J went to the finals, I think 4 times. He only won twice. Once in the '70s, once in the '80s. He lost to both Magic and he lost to the Rockets, I think. Yeah, the Rockets, but the Rockets never... Well, no, not the Rockets. The Rockets played, because Moses Malone played for the Rockets and for the Sixers. But they never... I conclude they never played each other, which is weird. You think they would have. But Dr. J lost to... I think that's what it was. He played the Lakers back-to-back years, and he beat Magic one year and then lost to Magic one year. That was the famous... One of those years was the famous year where they ended up winning Game 7 in the Boston Garden for the Eastern Conference Final, and the crowd is chanting, beat LA, which, again, I'm trying to understand the kind of thinking, because that was pre-Lakers, Celtics, Magic, Bird rivalry, because that would have been 82 or 83. But the whole historical part where you had the Minneapolis Lakers that won in the 50s and early 60s with George Mikan, and you had the Celtics dynasty in the 60s, they must have still had some kind of rivalry that happened because the Lakers frequently would play the Celtics in the 60s and lose. I did not look that up. That would be a more comparable thing to look up. How many times did because Jerry West lost the finals, it's like 8 times. He won once. So most of those, that must be part of it. It's like, that's where the rivalry, but the Magic Bird thing was like a sort of second generation thing. And I kind of always knew that, but I didn't really look at the actual history to see how many times it happened. But it's just interesting to learn. So anyway, have you watched Winning Time, the Dynasty, the Lakers Dynasty series? What do you think of it? It's a little, again, they're taking liberties with, doing sort of the Office speaking to the camera thing. And, some of the music is maybe not quite accurate in terms of the sort of accuracy of historical accuracy, but they've done that with a lot of shows. It will be interesting to see, where they get into, especially they haven't got into the actual basketball yet, like, how Magic has to deal with not being the starting point guard at first, and then he plays center in the finals and in the 1980 finals, and then dealing with Paul Westhead, I guess, and then we bring Riley in, and they draft Worthy, Michael Cooper, I think, was on the team. You know, of course, Kareem, the whole dynamic with Kareem. It will be cool to see if they do that. If they get the right casting, they don't overdo it. But it's it's good. I'm glad it's another show to watch. I didn't anticipate. I didn't know this was happening. It's something. Oh, I should check that out. So, but anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.